If you're the CEO, I'll leave and take the employees with me. This company is finished. Tucker declared this as he stood in the CEO's office, holding a stack of envelopes from the desk. So that's how it is. Previously, when Tucker came to negotiate his salary, I had rejected his demands outright, and he left muttering something like, "You'll regret this." It seems he's trying to drag others into his resignation. It's my fault for allowing a rebellious employee like him to emerge. But this is an important matter, so I made sure to confirm with Tucker. "Tucker, just to confirm, you have decided to resign from the company, correct?" Tucker burst out laughing, holding his stomach. "Of course. I've been saying that all along. You won't raise my salary, so there's no choice. These days, talented people know when to abandon a boring company." Hearing this, I looked Tucker in the eye and said, "Thank you. That's a big help. We'll proceed with the necessary steps right away." Tucker, oblivious to what was coming, let out a surprised "What?" and looked at me in confusion. He still doesn't realize that a truth very inconvenient for him is about to come to light. My name is Shane Conway. I'm in my 30s and the CEO of a startup IT company. Being a startup CEO may sound impressive, but this isn't a company I founded myself. I became the CEO by chance, so there's nothing to be proud of. A few years ago, my father started this company. However, he fell ill suddenly and passed away without recovering. He had been working tirelessly, barely sleeping, so it's no surprise he pushed himself too hard. While Dad was leading the company, I was working for a large trading company and living abroad for several years. I knew he'd started a business, but before I could witness his struggles and achievements, he was gone. Dad had once asked me to join him in the company, but that opportunity was lost forever. I wasn't worried about my future. I had saved up a considerable amount due to my frugal lifestyle. When Dad told me about his plans to start a business, I was tempted. However, I was in the middle of a significant project at work and told him I wanted to focus on finishing it before making a decision. Before I could complete that project, I received the news of his passing. I returned home, left my trading company, and took over Dad's business. Given these circumstances, I can't say I'm particularly proud of myself, but I can't keep looking back. Dad always supported me with kind words. Though I now work in a major trading company, I had a rough past. In middle school, I struggled to fit in and ended up attending a charter school. During that time, Dad told me, "Pursue what you love and focus on your strengths. One day, you'll discover what you're good at." That advice encouraged me to dive into computer science, programming, and other areas I found interesting or useful for the future. Thanks to his encouragement, I developed apps and interacted with people worldwide, even while still in middle school. I want to honor Dad's memory by taking the company public and making it a force for good in society. Fulfilling his dreams would be the ultimate way to repay him. With that vision in mind, I am now managing the company he left behind. After about a year of running the company, I began noticing various issues within it. Operational inefficiencies are relatively easy to fix, but the real challenge lies in people. Moreover, the problem is even deeper rooted because of the behavior of a certain person who serves as the general manager, a position in which he manages his subordinates. The department manager's name was Tucker, but his work attitude was clearly excessive. Reports from other employees indicate that Tucker spends much of his working hours on side gigs. "Mr. Conway, I'm heading out for a bit," Tucker said casually. Perhaps because he's in his 40s and older than me, Tucker has spoken to me informally since I became CEO. Given our operations, there's almost no reason for Tucker to need to visit the post office, so I stopped him. "Thank you for your hard work. May I ask where you're headed?" Tucker gave me an annoyed look and replied, "It's nothing. Sometimes you need to go out for work. I have a personal client to pay today." As he spoke, he picked up a large package and prepared to leave the office. However, our company rarely handles cash or face-to-face transactions. Most of our processes are handled online. Moreover, finance and sales usually manage payments, so this wasn't part of Tucker's job. His explanation didn't make sense to me at all. We make payments online, don't we? And what's in that package? Are you delivering something to a client? When I pressed further, Tucker frowned and spoke quickly. The client isn't tech-savvy and only accepts in-person payments. Besides, getting out of the office once in a while boosts productivity. The package is just my stuff, and I'm putting it in my car. Honestly, it feels like you're micromanaging everyone, and it's stifling. With that, Tucker kicked the office door open roughly and hurriedly left. According to the employees, Tucker's primary side hustle appears to be reselling goods online. While our company doesn't prohibit side jobs, they are allowed only if they don't leak company information or cause any harm. However, this allowance is strictly for activities outside of working hours. As long as he's receiving a salary from our company, he's obligated to focus solely on our business during working hours. If he's dedicating work hours to his reselling activities, then it's a significant issue. After questioning him so thoroughly today, I hope he at least feels some discomfort about continuing such behavior. Still, if I keep receiving similar reports from other employees, a thorough investigation will be necessary. It's disappointing that someone in a managerial position, who should be guiding and mentoring others, is the subject of such suspicions. Resolving to monitor Tucker's actions more closely, I returned to my work. However, just as I tried to focus, messages of concern from employees kept coming in. As part of our company benefits, we stock snacks and coffee for employees, but the budget for these is being depleted at an alarming rate. The frequency of coffee bean purchases has doubled, and snacks are disappearing by the box. On one occasion, a large amount of snacks I replenished with my own money vanished in a single day. Finding this strange, I posted a notice asking employees to be more mindful, but there was no improvement. On top of that, Holly, our finance manager, came to me for advice. It's about Tucker. His expense claims are blatantly inappropriate. He's submitting bills for private dinners and family meals without hesitation, she said, looking distressed. Could you do something about it? She added with a troubled expression. Holly is an incredibly talented individual with certifications as a lawyer and tax accountant. Like me, she had a tough time in middle school and was homeschooled for a while, focusing solely on her studies. Driven by a desire to prove wrong those who looked down on her, she worked incredibly hard, which I deeply admire. On several occasions, I've witnessed Tucker mocking Holly because of her past struggles. Each time, I admonished him, but his response was always off the mark. You shouldn't be too harsh on someone so emotionally fragile. I admire Holly, who is almost the same age as me but has great ability and will, but she continues with a gloomy look on her face. Actually, I once saw him taking office supplies without permission. I subtly warned him, but it seems he's still doing it. Since Tucker is older and often acts condescendingly, Holly probably finds it difficult to confront him directly. As we were discussing this in the break room, Luke walked in to make some coffee. Luke, who's also around my age, is a key contributor to the company with his expertise in marketing and sales. Thanks to his experience running his own business in the past. Although his own company failed, he's used those lessons to offer invaluable suggestions to our organization. Having been with the company since my father founded it, Luke knows the company inside out. It's no exaggeration to say that the company functions smoothly, even with me suddenly stepping in as CEO, because of people like Luke. Holly and Luke are incredible assets to the company. Overhearing our conversation, Luke joined in. Holly, I think you should let Shane know about the other issue as well. It's not good to handle this alone, it's a problem for the organization as a whole, he said. Holly hesitated but eventually started speaking, her eyes welling up with tears. Lately, Tucker has been persistently inviting her to dinners that involve drinking. At first, she complied, but his intentions became increasingly obvious and uncomfortable. Tucker has a family, And above all, Holly feels genuinely afraid. Despite her expertise in legal matters, it's hard for her to act decisively when she's directly involved. Holly also loves this company and doesn't want to leave or feel unwelcome here. Knowing how much she cares about the company, I felt even more determined to ensure she didn't endure any further discomfort. Luke seemed to share my sentiments, and in an unusually firm tone, he said, "If this is true, Holly shouldn't have to keep suffering. This is a serious issue, and we need to take immediate action." I nodded in agreement. "We'll prepare to set up an investigative committee. Please keep me informed of anything else that comes up." As we were discussing this, Tucker suddenly appeared in the break room. "How can you guys just stand around chatting in such a small space? I need to make coffee, so move out of the way, will you?" He gestured dismissively at me with his hand, clearly annoyed. Though irritated, I stepped aside to let him pass. From his attitude, it seemed he hadn't overheard our conversation. After making his coffee, Tucker grabbed a handful of snacks from the overflowing snack box and said, later, as he walked out. At that moment, Luke called out to Tucker, "Tucker, are you really eating all those snacks by yourself? If you take that much, no one else will get any. Oh, by the way, I love those snacks." Luke spoke in a light-hearted, playful tone, so Tucker didn't seem offended and even smiled. Luke's ability to communicate without creating tension, combined with his strong work ethic, is a testament to why he excels in sales. "Oh, I didn't know you liked these. Next time, I'll bring some in for you." "Look forward to it," Tucker replied. However, despite his words, Tucker left with a large pile of snacks in hand. Holly watched him leave and let out a sigh. Tucker being generous enough to bring snacks? That'll never happen. Witnessing these dynamics in the office left me feeling heavy-hearted. As the CEO, it's my responsibility to create an environment where employees can work comfortably. With that thought in mind, I left the break room, mentally planning my next steps. The next day, more trouble landed on my plate. As soon as I arrived at the office, Tucker stormed into the CEO's office. "Since you became CEO, my salary hasn't increased at all. Care to explain why that is? Over the past year, I've gotten a clearer view of the company's operations. But one thing is certain, Tucker's performance has been far from exceptional. Not to mention, he's currently facing allegations of inappropriate expense claims, misappropriation of company property, working on side hustles during company hours, and harassment complaints from employees. He seems unaware of all this and clearly lacks the ability to objectively evaluate his own work performance. It's troubling to have an employee who demands a raise while doing so little." Of course, I couldn't say any of this outright, so I carefully chose my words to help him understand. I fully understand the importance of increasing employee satisfaction and retaining talented individuals to grow the company. I'm still assessing things as I settle into this role, but I assure you I'm committed to investing in personnel. Keep up the good work, I'm counting on you. Although I wanted to confront him with the reality, it wasn't the right time. Much still needed to be prepared. However, Tucker didn't like my response and became even more agitated. "If talent is so important, you should raise salaries now. Otherwise, people like me, top talent, will leave. It's a competitive job market these days, you know." He was clearly trying to intimidate me, but it only left me feeling disgusted. His threats didn't faze me. I carefully hid my emotions and replied with a smile. "I understand your point. However, if the company doesn't remain sustainable, it's all for nothing. We're finally gaining traction. And anyone can see that increasing labor costs significantly right now isn't a wise move." Hearing this, Tucker slammed his hand on my desk and gave me an unsettling grin. "Fine, that's your answer, then? Don't come crying to me later." With those words, he turned his back and left the office without so much as a goodbye, slamming the door behind him. Later that evening, I returned from an outing to find a stack of envelopes on my desk. Curious, I picked them up and discovered that each one was labeled resignation letter. There were about 30 envelopes in total. It's unheard of for so many employees to submit their resignations at once. When I looked up, Tucker was standing in the doorway, having entered my office without me noticing. Grinning, he declared, "If you stay on as CEO, I'll take the employees with me. This company is done for." So that's his plan. All those times he muttered, "You'll regret this," he was planning to resign and drag others down with him. It's my responsibility as CEO to prevent such rebellion, but it's still disappointing. Still, I made sure to confirm an important point with Tucker. "Tucker, just to confirm, are you saying you're resigning from the company?" Tucker burst into laughter, holding his stomach. "Of course I am. How many times do I have to say it? You didn't give me a raise, so I have no choice. Talented people won't stick around in a boring company anymore." Hearing this, I looked him straight in the eye and said, "Thank you. That's very helpful. I'll start processing the paperwork immediately." Tucker, clueless about what I was implying, looked at me with a baffled expression and blurted out, "What?" He still doesn't know that the truth, which is far from convenient for him, is about to come to light. What's the meaning of this? Don't try to bluff me. Even Luke and Holly, the core members of this company, are leaving. I knew this wasn't true, but I chose not to deny it outright. Instead, I began to reveal the facts to Tucker, one step at a time. "I understand your intention to resign, Tucker, but we'll be contacting you a few times going forward, so please ensure you're available. Other than your accumulated funds, there's likely nothing else we owe you. I wanted to inform you in advance so you can plan for the future." Tucker's eyes widened at my words. "Hey, what nonsense are you spouting? Are you saying I won't get any compensation or bonus? I've been working diligently. What have I done to deserve this?" As Tucker stepped forward aggressively, Luke and Holly entered the office. Holly spoke first. "Are you not aware of your actions? Your offenses have been largely proven, and you will have to face the consequences." Tucker looked between Luke and Holly with a trembling voice. "Wait, what's going on here? Aren't you two leaving with me? You promised to quit this company and work for the one I'm starting, didn't you?" Holly and Luke looked at each other at Tucker's words. Luke then said in disgust, "Who said we were coming with you? I might have said it sounds interesting, but I never agreed to anything. And starting a company isn't as easy as you think. Someone who can't even earn the trust of their colleagues isn't likely to succeed. And there's no way we're getting on a sinking ship we can already see is doomed." While Tucker's words seem to have come from an idea that does not seem to have accumulated management knowledge, the words of Luke, who has started a business once and experienced failure, carry a different weight. Because Luke knows the joys and fears of starting a business, he must intuitively understand that Tucker will not be able to make it work. Luke continued, "By the way, in the company you plan to start, would you turn a blind eye if your employees worked on side hustles? If so, maybe I'll take a job at your company while still working here. Oh, and for the record, I've already reported to Shane that you've been reselling goods during work hours." Tucker visibly panicked at Luke's remark. "What? How do you? No, you must be mistaken. I've never done any side hustles." Desperate to deny it, Tucker tried to deflect, but Luke pressed on relentlessly. "Then why do you, someone with no need to leave the office, frequently go out during work hours? You claimed it was for a transaction with someone unfamiliar with the internet, but there's no record of such transactions anywhere in our systems. Out of curiosity, I once followed you to see for myself." Hearing this, Tucker snapped and retorted defiantly, "You spied on me? That's a dirty trick. Anyway, the blame lies with a boss who underpays me. I have a family to support. I had no choice." Tucker's claims were baseless. he was being paid above the industry average. If he couldn't manage his finances, it was either due to poor budgeting or outright dishonesty. Before Tucker could continue his excuses, Holly stepped in. "So that's why you've been submitting inappropriate expense claims? We've verified that you filed expenses for family dinners and personal purchases. Every one of those receipts has been traced." As Holly spoke, Tucker's face turned pale, and sweat began to bead on his forehead. His reaction only confirmed the truth of her accusations. Holly pressed further. "By the way, do you recognize that old printer over there? It's one I purchased on a resale app." Tucker turned to look at the printer Holly was pointing at, his eyes widening in shock. He murmured, "No way." Under his breath. "You've been taking company property and selling it online, haven't you? The model numbers match. And some still have the company's inventory stickers attached. Recently, your sales must have spiked, right? That's because I've been buying them back." As Tucker's knees began to shake, Holly approached him, her voice chillingly cold. "Under the charge of embezzlement, you could face up to 10 years in prison. Additionally, your repeated mockery of me for my school history constitutes defamation. I could seek monetary damages for that." Ignoring Tucker's pleas for forgiveness, Holly continued, her gaze icy. "And let's not forget how you forced me to go to a bar despite my refusals. I won't ever forget that. Your actions could be classified as coercive sexual misconduct, which carries a potential prison sentence of 6 months to 10 years. Be prepared for the consequences." Tucker collapsed to his knees, defeated. Looking up at me, he spoke in a faint voice. "So, they're not resigning, are they? And I guess none of the others will follow me either." Feeling both pity and contempt, I responded honestly. "It's not like I immediately thought the resignation letters were fake. But when I saw that all the handwriting matched, it raised suspicions. When I first saw the resignation letters, I thought perhaps I had driven my employees to the brink. But after noticing that the handwriting on all the envelopes was identical, I began to suspect they were forged." Tucker's sudden announcement that he was taking employees with him only solidified my doubts. "In any case, you can't stay here any longer. Pack up your things and leave by the end of the day. We'll be in touch about the next steps. Thank you for your time here." Tucker quietly left the office. Further investigations revealed even more misconduct on Tucker's part. The most serious issue was the breach of customer data. It came to light that he had sold sensitive company information to third parties for substantial sums of money. The sheer amount of wrongdoings we uncovered required thorough review and legal action. Ironically, the reselling side hustle he was so proud of turned out to be a failure. Once Holly, his main buyer, stopped purchasing from him, it seemed his sales completely dried up. Once all of Tucker's offenses are confirmed, he will undoubtedly face consequences far greater than the small profits he made. I heard that he had to sell his newly built house and now lives alone in a small apartment. Perhaps even his family has abandoned him. I don't know what lies ahead for him, but I can only hope that he takes responsibility for his actions and moves forward with a sense of repentance. As for me, I've already begun working on expanding our business alongside my talented team. Going public is just the beginning. I also aim to expand internationally in the future. If everything goes well, the company's performance will grow exponentially. Dad's dream is within reach. Sometimes, I feel anxious about whether everything will truly work out, but in those moments, I picture Dad's face and shake off the doubt. I'm determined to succeed. As I looked up at the sky, I felt as though Dad was smiling and nodding in approval. 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 Approval.